Yes, this is the Krypton Factor. Television's toughest quiz is back with its greatest ever challenge.
It's called the Super Round, and it's designed to test our contestants to the limits of their physical and mental capabilities.
The spectacular new Krypton Factor 1995 starts here. Round one, the assault course, but with a new scoring system. Each contestant is scientifically assessed and given a personal target time based on age and gender. This year's assault course tests physical fitness and endurance to the limit. It measures 400 metres and comprises 16 demanding obstacles. It's not a question of who crosses the line first, but who performs best against his or her own target time.
Carl Bovenizer, a vet from the Isle of Man, is the early leader just inside his target time.
My family are fairly excited about me being on the show, although my wife was a little bit nervous about me having to jump off all the tall things in the assault course.
Bernice Quatermain is going well at this stage, already up on her target time and close to catching Nigel Stones in yellow on the high balance. Carl still hanging on to his lead, and down the fireman's pole now comes Bernice. But Carl only a couple of yards ahead of Nigel now.
With target times based on age and gender, Bernice is in a strong position.
My friends are really pleased that I've got on the programme. Everyone's been really supportive, and one of my friend's husbands has been babysitting while I go training. And my mum is the proudest mum in the whole world.
Down through that bruising S-bend goes Carl Bovenizer, still setting the pace. But stiff competition coming through from champion cyclist Nigel Stones.
The new Super is totally fantastic, and it's just going to be so good to climb the mountain at the end and pick up the K first. If I won the Krypton Factor, it would be the best feeling ever.
Company director Deborah Lewin trailing Bernice at this stage, but with a long way still to run. She's displaying plenty of guts and determination.
I describe myself as somebody who enjoys a challenge and somebody who's quite adaptable. That's the main reason that I think I might do fairly well on the Krypton Factor.
It'll be really hurting now with just the Burma rope bridge and the aerial slide to go. Carl in front, then Nigel, then Bernice. And in terms of target times, it's going to be a very close call indeed between Carl Bovenizer and Bernice Quatermain. Has Carl put enough distance between himself and Bernice to take 10 points? He finishes now, an excellent run, and with his target time almost identical to Nigel's here, he'll certainly have a points advantage over him. But here comes Bernice. She started level. She finishes so close to the men, and she may just have snatched it. We'll know in a moment. The assault course is a very tough way to start, and it's not going to get any easier as we now welcome our contestants.
And with one of the fastest times for a woman, Bernice Quatermain wins the assault course.
So, Deborah comes fourth, Nigel takes 4 points for third, Carl 6 for second place, and Bernice, an incredible 43 seconds ahead of her target time, takes the 10 points. Round two tests mental agility. It's not just speed of thought that's important, but reflex action too. The contestants will compete against each other to answer questions in the fastest time by using touchscreen technology. They're about to be shown 5 separate groups which can feature either numbers, shapes, letters, months of the year or clock times. I'll ask them questions relating to the particular group they're looking at. For example, if they were given this set of numbers, 6, 12, 7, 34, I might say the difference is 5. The answer would be 12 and 7, because of all the numbers, the only two to have a difference of 5 are 12 and 7. The first contestant to touch those two numbers wins the point. Well, if you're ready, contestants, we are going to start with numbers. 2 numbers greater than 4. 2 numbers between. The difference is 5. The sum is 1 more than 9. 2 cubed. 4 letters. neither even nor divisible by 3. 1 less than half of 8. Letters of the alphabet. The 14th letter of the alphabet. 2 letters before M. Not in the word Viking. Last but 2 in essence. 7 letters between. 2 before the 3rd image. 4th letter in shake. Not before R or after W. Clock times. 115 minutes before 00:55. 6 hours 55 between. 5 hours after 11:50. 6 hours before 11:30. Midway between 0900 and 1550. 55 minutes before 1745. 9.5 hours before 0830. 1.5 hours before 0700. Now months, less than 30 days. No R. 1 to the right of the 2nd image. That's it, the end of the round, and quickly let me explain that when contestants finish with the same number of correct answers as happened there, the speed in which they responded decides the finishing positions. But there was a clear winner, and it is Nigel Stones. And here's how the clock separated 3 of our contestants. Bernice gets 2 points, Carl 4 and Deborah 6, with Nigel, of course, getting 10 points. So, the end of round 2, and there's a new leader with a Krypton Factor of 14. Scunthorpe's Nigel Stones.
Round 3 response, where we test hand-to-eye coordination, reflex action and nerve. We're using the very latest aircraft flight technology, British Aerospace's state-of-the-art multi-million-pound simulator. Each contestant has to track a lead plane flying Red Arrow-style aerobatics. If they're as good as the test pilot, they'll follow every spin and loop. Deviations lose points. A lapse of concentration can mean losing contact or crashing. The highest possible score is 100, but even the test pilot could only manage 97.6. Deborah Lewin is the first of the contestants to take to the skies.
The flight path is over Blackpool seafront. You'll see the tower down there. Deborah into her first loop and rolling out. Handling it very well so far, and keep an eye on that box to the right of the screen. It's the tracking score. That tells how well she's doing. Over 70 is rated good, over 80 excellent, and over 90, well, then you're in the professional class. And just look at it, that is unbelievable. But having said that, aerobatics is in her blood. Her father's an ex-RAF pilot. He'd certainly be impressed with this. She's sitting right on the tail of the leader, and still that tracking score's in the 90s. Not far to go now, and if she can keep this up, she'll be a very hard act to follow. Blackpool Tower ahead, that's the finishing line, 92.1, a fantastic performance from Deborah. Carl Bovenizer next in the hot seat, and this is the round he's expressed most concern about, so let's see how he copes. Tracking score excellent so far. And that box immediately above the score shows where Carl is positioned in relation to the lead aircraft. Carl's plane is in the centre of the dial, and he should always have the leader's plane just in front of him. But if it drifted away to the outer circle, it would mean he'd lost control and would have just 10 seconds to regain contact before his flight would be aborted. No problems. Rolling out of the loop. His tracking score still excellent. Bottoming out and just losing a bit of contact. He needs now to bank hard left to get back onto the leader's tail. And he's done that. In fact, that's a brilliant recovery. He's right behind the lead aircraft again. And it's going to be another outstanding score, I think. Here comes the tower. The final score, 87.1 for Carl Bovenizer. Nigel Stones, the contest leader, is pilot number 3. Into the loop he goes. His speed will drop to just 150 knots at the top of the loop, then surge to 400 knots when he comes out of it. But he's staying in contact nicely. A good tracking score, roaring over the promenade now. And letting that nose drop just too much. That's dangerous so close to the ground. But a good recovery. And up he soars into his second loop. Still tucked in nicely behind the leader. And now coming out of it, and this is where he had slight problems exiting the first loop. And he's in trouble again, bigger trouble in fact. He's losing contact. Now look at the box above the tracking score. The lead plane now to the outer circle. That means he's got just 10 seconds to regain contact. And I don't think he's going to make it. The warning lights flashing in the cockpit. And it's all over, 68.4. Finally, Bernice Quatermain, second overall, but after that disastrous finish to Nigel's flight, she has a chance to regain the lead here. Tracking score is excellent so far. But in trouble coming out of this loop. She's pulled out too early and is above the lead aircraft. And you can see that perfectly over Blackpool Sands. Now she's going to have real problems with this next climb because she's out of position. She can't see the leader anymore because he's below her aircraft. Now keep your eye on that box above the tracking score. That tells the story. The lead plane drifting out towards that outer ring. And it's there now, which means she's just 10 seconds to regain contact. But I don't think it's going to happen. She is completely lost. And that's it, just 57.2.
And those flight scores mean Bernice gets 2 points, Nigel 4, Carl 6, but that remarkable flight from Deborah Lewin wins her the 10 points. And the overall scoreboard now shows a tie for first place between Nigel Stones and Deborah Lewin, both with Krypton Factors of 18.
For this series, it's so important for contestants to build as high a points total as possible because they'll be using these later to buy advantages for themselves in the new Super Round. Well, now's the chance to earn more vital points. It's observation.
Round 4 tests contestants' power of recall. This series will be featuring some stunning computer animation, specially commissioned from Bournemouth University's Department of Media Production. The contestants have to study everything that happens in these short, action-packed animations, and after, I'll ask 5 questions. Tonight's animation is called Storm in a Teacup. Watch carefully.
Ooh, a nice cup of tea. Oh, me poor behind. Hello, darling. Sugars, no milk.
5 questions on that animation, starting now. In the ballroom dancing scene, what colour was the man's bow tie? How many fish were in the group that kept flashing red? What colour were the stripes on the deck chair? How did the lady ask for her tea? Which fish was caught in the net? Nigel and Deborah both got 4 questions right, but Nigel answered quicker, so he wins the observation round. Carl and Bernice tied, but Bernice was faster, so she gets 4 points. Deborah gets 6 points and Nigel takes 10. So the overall scoreboard now shows a clear leader with a Krypton Factor of 28, Motor Factory Manager Nigel Stones from Scunthorpe.
Into round 5, 75 seconds of rapid-fire general knowledge questions and a chance for the contestants to really build their totals and give themselves maximum advantage when they enter the Super Round. There's 2 points for a correct answer, but 2 points deducted for a wrong answer. So if you're ready now, on the buzzers, contestants, the clock starts now. Which singer turned actress starred in Moonstruck, Mermaids and Nigel?
Cher.
Correct. Which name is shared by an ancient ship with oars and a ship's kitchen? Nigel.
Galley.
Correct. Which British award that John Galliano won in 1994 went to Nigel?
Designer of the Year.
Correct. Which designer of the year? What?
Fashion designer of the
Correct. Who wrote Design for Living, Private Lives and Hay Fever? Carl.
Noel Coward.
Correct. Brontophobia means you're scared of which loud noise? Nigel.
Year. Thunder.
Correct. Which broadsheet newspaper, once nicknamed the Thunderer, is owned by Rupert Murdoch? Carl.
The Times.
Correct. Which 9 times Wimbledon singles champion retired after losing the... Carl.
No, Martina Navratilova.
Correct. A navarin is a casserole usually containing which meat? Deborah.
Lamb.
Correct. Since the 12th century, Lambeth Palace has been whose official residence? Carl.
The Archbishop of London.
No, Archbishop of Canterbury. 23 cantons make up which republic in the European... Nigel.
Switzerland.
Correct. Which legendary Swiss marksman led resistance to Austria? Carl.
William Tell.
Correct. On television... Well, that's it, the end of the round, and it means that the leader going into the super round with a Krypton Factor of 38 is the motor factory manager from Scunthorpe, Nigel Stones. So, Nigel has the edge, but all our contestants will now have to decide how they will use their points totals to buy advantages for themselves in the super round coming next.
For this series, we've developed a concentrated version of the Krypton Factor games and puzzles. All our contestants start off at the same time, but only one can emerge triumphant. The winner takes all. The spectacular super round after the break.
Welcome back to the Krypton Factor. Our contestants have already battled through 5 tough mental and physical rounds, and now they face the toughest challenge of all. The brand new Krypton Factor Super Round tests every aspect of our contestants' physical and mental ability. Starting with a 50-foot parachute jump off the Krypton Mountain, they then enter the Cryptic Rings, a complex maze testing memory and interpretation. Only by correctly remembering a 5-digit code will our contestants find the quick route out of the rings and collect their key code for the computer challenge. This next task, coupled with the laser matrix, tests physical and mental agility. After logging into the computer, the contestants must attempt to crack the letter code and work out 4 passwords. Only then can they cross the laser matrix. Breaking any of the beams will incur a disastrous time penalty. Next, the huge response revolve, where 6 battens must be removed by reacting to the light sequence which releases them. Finally, Krypton's own Everest. Constructing the ladder comes first, followed by a sheer ascent and a race to the top.
Contestants, take your places.
This is the Krypton Mountain, which has been heavily in the minds of our contestants over the last few minutes as they've decided which advantages to buy with the points that they've gained over the first 5 rounds. And a reminder that our leader is Nigel with 38, Deborah second with 26, Carl third with 24, and Bernice fourth with 18. Those points will now be used to buy super round advantages. Nigel's used 20 points to buy 2 ladder pieces, spent another 10 on a response revolve baton, and the remaining 8 points on a directional arrow in the cryptic rings. Deborah, worried by the mountain, spent 20 points on ladder pieces and then 6 points on an arrow. Carl's chosen a baton from the revolve plus 1 ladder piece. Bernice could only afford to buy a ladder piece and a directional arrow. But then, every little helps in the super round.
The first obstacle to be overcome, the cryptic rings. They could be in there for months, but there is a simple way. These monitors in front of you will shortly show a sequence of numbers and figures. They're your personal code. As soon as you've memorised those, you can jump. So the super round starts now.
The codes memorised, Bernice takes the plunge first, and it really is a nerve-wracking leap to the floor. And for this jump, all the contestants underwent training from the paratroop regiment to ensure they land safely.
That's the code, each letter and number matching a key junction to the next stage within the rings. If they forget the code, it's almost impossible to find the correct route out.
So it really is all about memory and interpretation while under tremendous pressure as they search for those numbers and letters. Carl's taken a wrong turning and he's going to have to go back on himself. But the race is really on now. Bernice has found her final indicator. That directional arrow advantage really worked for her. Nigel not far behind. He really seems to be on his way now. But Carl and Deborah are losing ground.
Bernice has logged in at the computer. Up comes the word music. Now she has to recreate that word in the box below, but there is a catch. The normal letters don't correspond. You have to crack the code. And she has. But what is that code? Each time you press a letter, the next one alphabetically appears on the screen. Deborah here, and that second letter's wrong. She needs to type in a T to get that U. Bernice is almost finished. She'll be onto the laser matrix in a moment. Nigel's still struggling. Now we know how agile Bernice is from her performance on the assault course. She'll need that and more to avoid breaking any of those laser beams. If she does break a beam, she incurs a time penalty of 7 seconds, which could be crucial. Carl's also now finally out of the rings. Deborah's making easy work of the codes, but Nigel is still having problems. He's losing a lot of time here. Deborah just has to hit a Z to get that final A of Viola, and she's off. After struggling in the cryptic rings, she's now moved up to second place. A moment's lack of concentration here, though, and she could be back down the field.
Bernice has built up a really good lead, and she is the first to attempt to remove the 6 battens from the response revolve. And at last, Nigel's beaten the computer, although he is now down to 3rd place. And Deborah quickly learning that the revolve is as much about balance as response. Carl almost out of it now. Timing is everything in this task. Those battens can only be removed when the adjacent light comes on, so the contestants need to quickly learn the sequence. Now, has Bernice built up a strong enough lead? This is where Nigel's advantages can work for him. Remember, he only has to collect 5 battens, the others have to get 6. Now, this is Nigel. He's already collected 3 battens, so he only needs 2 more. He's pulled ahead of Deborah, who has collected 2. But Bernice is struggling. She's been in there the longest. And looming next, that awesome Krypton Mountain.
So, 3rd into the revolve, first out, having made up so much lost ground, it's Nigel Stones, who's heading for Krypton Mountain. And not to be underestimated, Deborah Lewin, right behind him. They've both bought 2 sections of ladder with their advantages, so there's nothing between them.
So it looks like it's down to Nigel and Deborah, with Nigel just shading it at this moment. Deborah has almost completed the ladder section. But here comes Bernice. Her early lead disappeared in that revolve. Has she the speed and the stamina for a final all-out assault on Nigel and Deborah?
But it's Nigel onto the mountain first. He's come back from what seemed a hopeless situation. He's played his advantages really well. Carl's last onto the mountain, but surely he can't do it now. He's left it far too late, paying for those earlier mistakes.
It's building up into a tremendous finish. Those limbs will be aching now, lungs just bursting. There couldn't be a tougher finish than this. A vertical climb, 50 feet to the top and victory. But who's going to do it? This is Bernice. It's been a really good comeback by her. She's giving everything, clawing her way up with tremendous power and determination and showing great technique as well. Carl's begun his climb too. Nigel's within a few feet of the top, so too is Deborah on the other side, just a few feet away from that K. And it's Scunthorpe's Nigel Stones with that final push. He wins it. A brilliant victory, and just a second or so behind it's Deborah Lewin, and it looks like Carl is going to get 3rd place.
Nigel, a brilliant run. Did you have any problems?
Computer problem on that, but I got up here first, that's all that matters.
Never mind,
Brilliant
well done.
performance there, Nigel. Well done. And of course, we shall be seeing Nigel again in the group final in 3 weeks' time. You can probably hear the other contestants finishing in the background. Meanwhile, we'll be back next week with another heat and another spectacular super round. Don't miss it. In the meantime, for the contestants, from Penny, from me, good night.
Bye-bye.
The cleverest bull in show business is here next with our favourite darts quiz. Then find out Hulk Hogan's plans as TNA presents Impact Wrestling. And later join crazy commentators Vic Romano and Kenny Blankenship for MXC, the most extreme elimination.